Let's start again. There you go.
Hello, everybody, or both of you. This is Emily and Jim, and today on Truth Rising, we will be speaking with Amy Hornblas, which would probably be pronounced Hornblas in French or whatever.
It's Polish.
It's Polish.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And this is an alternative think tank, we've decided tonight. Amy is an activist who is in the trenches, has been in the trenches for a long time. She's always there when you need her, with great ideas and great courage. She's not afraid to approach the powers that be, and it's fun to watch them run away from her. And it's fun to watch them run away from Emily also.
And it's fun to watch you running towards them on your horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to do something that's visually at least confusing, so that they don't know that they're supposed to run. But I think they know they're not supposed to be too friendly with me. You never know.
First rule, confuse your enemy.
Three of us who regularly confront the powers that be one way or another, and maybe we could say we've paid dearly for it. On the other hand, we have a lot of good laughs at how they handle things. Mm-hmm. So that's a brief introduction for Amy, but I'd like her to tell us a little bit, whatever she knows about Vermont Stands Up, and then also tell us what some of her more recent activism has been. And then Emily and I will sort of ask her probing questions.
All right. Yeah, so Vermont Stands Up is a really interesting organization. I'm just a member. I've attended a number of meetings around the state, but it's sort of a groups that meet all around the state that started in response to COVID-19 and the lockdowns and the masks and people just feeling totally separated and isolated and feeling like they're the only ones who are thinking this way or questioning and not knowing who they can talk to. And every time I go to a meeting, it's amazing how many people are still coming out of the woodwork and still like, wow, I found you guys. I've been looking for you for 2.5 years. I've been feeling all alone this whole time still, while their family is turning on them, their friends are turning on them for questioning things. And so it's a really great source of support. And there's been some activism, sort of loosely done through those groups, mostly just the members. It's not, the organization doesn't, as far as I know, organize very many, things. But what they do is they sort of just help people connect, and then we can take it from there. I really like that it's truly, grassroots. It's individuals deciding to make change through action, on their own, on whatever they're comfortable doing, or just supporting each other, which is a large part of keeping our spirits up so that we can do the work we have to do. Yeah.
And you are a lone wolf sometimes.
Well, I just, I'm a health teacher, so I was teaching health in the schools when this whole COVID thing happened. And so I'm used to organizing. I'm used to organizing youth groups and groups of people and doing things at the State House, around issues of tobacco or violence prevention and other issues. So it's just sort of, I feel more comfortable just taking the ball and running with it. It's sort of that bell the cat story has always really impacted me since I was a kid. I mean, if you're not willing to bell the cat, then sitting around and talking about it is, not going to accomplish much. And I figure someone's got to go out there and bell that cat, and I'm willing to be the one. And it does help other people feel more courageous too. And I try to make it fun. So I've been finding fun ways to kind of throw the opponent off a little bit with humor. And things like that.
Tell me more. Tell me more about your fun ways.
Yeah, so people know I wrote, I did a survey over the course of 2020 and 2021 called the Vermont Mask Survey, which surveyed Vermonters and found evidence that, yes, Vermonters are experiencing exactly the kinds of harms that we would expect based on the research as a result of wearing masks. especially prolonged use, especially people with pre-existing conditions. So I gathered that evidence, did a survey, found out, yes, we are definitely experiencing these harms. And I went about taking that evidence around to select boards and school boards and commissions and any media, which was only the alternative media, but any media that would cover it, trying to raise awareness. And I was getting just stonewalled by the mainstream media, still am stonewalled.
Oh,
by
sure.
They will not even talk about harms. Even the Daily Chronicle,
Wow.
you know, it's, it's
Well,
just
he's
surprising.
been really good though.
Right, but the harm,
Okay.
the harms is like a no-go zone. It's really kind of weird how nobody will address that.
Well,
I'm not surprised.
he won't let you
I
write
mean,
an article. He won't let you write an article or an editorial there for the Daily Chronicle.
well, I know that throughout the time that I was publishing the Vermont Mask Survey, and I did an initial report, then I did a final report. I sent out press releases. Nothing from. I mean, he has published a couple of my things recently. I resigned from the planning commission. I was a planning commissioner, and I resigned from there. And I wrote a letter about that, you know, connecting it to our rights. You know, they're not just taking our rights to land away and our rights to water and our rights to house ourselves and heat ourselves, but now our very air, you know, like this is, you know, and so I resigned, and he published that. So he does publish some things about what I, but it just, and I don't mean to pick on him. I don't know if that's just something fell through the cracks with Guy Page on this issue, but I do notice a trend that it's the untouchable issue. So I started just hitting the streets. Last fall in 2021, they made the kids wear masks at school, right? They were going back full time now with masks full time. And I just couldn't believe it. So I started breathing celebrations, made these really playful signs, you know, breathing is healthy. I'm a health teacher, so I'm really focusing on, you know, the health aspect of this. We need to breathe. It's a primary function of the human body. Respiration, you know, every other function depends on it. I'm just trying to educate, right? So I'm out there with these signs, you know, unmask the kids, and people started joining me. I was in St. Johnsbury, Hardwick, Danville, Cabot, you know, and all throughout the year in Hardwick. I stuck through Hardwick all through the year. And when the school buses went by, we had the signs so the kids knew, you know, that we were supporting them, and families and people and truckers, especially during the convoy protest. I mean, people just got out of their cars to thank me. People beeped. I could not believe the overwhelming support, because you wouldn't think that to see the news or social
not
media.
if you were in Montpelier.
Right.
But yes, out in the boonies, I remember driving to this thing or the other, and I'd see in Marshfield and in places like that, people acted quite normally. They didn't wear a mask or anything. They were, and I thought, well, that's a good sign. Right from the beginning.
Right. So I've been sort of trying to like break the spell here by just getting us back to basics, biology. And my latest thing this past summer, it was the bubbles experiment. So I discovered that when you blow bubbles, you know, through solution with the bubbles, you can blow super softly and make a bubble. I mean, it takes nothing. You put a mask on, you can't blow a bubble. You cannot blow a bubble. So I started bringing this out with a table to the streets. You know, I went to different events that were happening, like the Berry Heritage Festival and different things around central Vermont here and the Northeast Kingdom, and just talked to people and had my bubbles and had people try, you know, blowing bubbles. And I said, want to see me try it with a mask on, you know, and have you ever heard it's difficult to breathe with a mask on? And just did some public education, and overwhelmingly people understand this. And I'm pretty sure that that's why, as soon as the mandates lifted, the smiles came out. You know, people are voting with their smiles, and they
except in co-ops.
Well, there
those
are,
people are so.
Yeah, there are enclaves, and I worry about the people who still believe they work. You know, and especially elders now. You know, elders are going in the stores terrified, and that's the worst combination: terrified and suffocated.
And the babies.
Oh, and pregnancy, yeah. Oh, and the children and pregnant women.
People, yeah, you see these little kids in shopping carts with masks on. Not very often anymore. But to see it once,
so sad. And they're
scary.
And they're masking the kids in schools again. So I want to get that message out, because people don't necessarily know that, because they're hiding it behind disability rights. Get this, Emily, they're using disability rights, like for equal right to education for disabled students, right? To protect vulnerable students They may require that student to mask, or that class that student's with to mask, or the areas they go in.
How do they know who's vulnerable?
Well, they've decided based on absolutely no research, because I FOIA'd them and I can't get any information from them about this, about where they've got the information that they're safe, or that they're effective or necessary. I mean, especially for children with pre-existing conditions. I mean, we know that those populations are especially harmed from wearing masks. But they're, some of these families, I don't know if it's the families that they're claiming. The one school that we've been dealing with, Newark, and showing up at the school board meetings there, because we know it's happening in that community. They're saying that it's, the parents want their child protected, and so they want the classrooms masked. Right.
That probably is true, because there are a lot of sicko parents out there who really believe that the masks are protecting their kids.
Well, people.
Well, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I mean, I wish you were down south more. I mean, if you knew, I learned that the Putney School, which is just a little bit north of Brattleboro, we're in the Brattleboro region in the bottom right-hand corner. They were, during the pandemic, having the kids climb in through the windows, Amy, instead of going down the halls to avoid walking together. They had little step stools into the windows. I mean, the height of idiocy could not be, more at a absurd pinnacle. And then so they were doing that, and I think that they likely, have their little stack of masks at the door, and then tell you that the parents want it.
Right.
And then nobody is bringing any actions. Who has the time to do this, to claim that they're harming them anyway? They aren't they aren't our children. So how do we file suit that way? But they are creating these hypoxic environments where that, of course, is not only limiting their ability, their brains, which need to have all this oxygen to grow. It's child harming. It's what would you call it? Child endangerment?
Well,
Child terror?
strangulation.
What do you call it?
Legally, it's strangulation. Because I used to, in domestic violence, I worked with domestic violence survivors years ago. And when we had a case of strangulation, all we had to prove was that it happened. And that was the hard part, because usually there were only two people in the room when the strangulation happened. One would deny, so we would be looking for evidence like bruises or change of voice or something. But the fact that it happened, if we could prove that it happened, strangulation alone is a crime. And so I looked that up last year. I was telling Jim about this because I looked it up. It's a felony, and the way it's worded in Vermont statutes is to impede the normal flow of breath by covering the nose or mouth.
Wow. Well, you got
not
them.
Both. Yeah, right. So here we know it happened because they got it in their policies. They're bragging that they got photos of the kids at school, right, with masks on. And so we know it happened. I'm calling it strangulation, and I've been trying to find some legal way. But what I keep finding out is, just like the OSHA standards that they're not following around masks, they should be following OSHA standards. And the fact of the matter is, these laws exist, but they're not being equally applied.
No. And the intimidation not being followed either.
Well, you have to have standing. I mean, the problem is the people who have kids in school, who would, the parents of the kids, they're not going to want to stick out and have their kids targeted at all. And, you and I, well, Jim does have some kids in school, but I don't have any kids in school, so I can't file suit on their behalf. It will be just come out. But I think, calling a spade, that I think that's a beautiful thing that you have looked up and discovered. I don't know whether we could let people know that's what we think of it, or somehow, how do we tell the parents who get it, or the children that get it? I know that some people are having these flyers that they target when actually the high schools come out, and they put them on the windows, and have a
Mhm.
flyer. And those, a lot of time, those kids have other members of the family in lower things and stuff. And I'm certain you can and have designed flyers that we can put out. But I think that going to the schools during pickup time or drop-off time,
Mhm.
because we either have to find somebody that we can support them in filing, or you've been to school boards, and what happens there for you?
It,
Well,
it's,
that's when you're suing.
mhm.
But when someone's breaking the law, you need the constabulary to step in. And
Yeah.
coercion, I have the law upstairs, it's
Mhm.
written out. Coercion is against the law, intimidation is against the law,
Mhm.
and now you've mentioned strangulation is against the law, but that would be harder to prove. Coercion is a given. Look
Right.
what happened at UVM.
Mhm.
You can't go here unless you're vaccinated. That's
Right.
coercion.
Right.
And yet the constabulary is 100% moot
Mhm.
on that
I mean,
point.
the
But
sheriffs, the
Right.
sheriff.
Who forces it?
or whatever,
Right.
any part of the constabulary.
Right. Because the
is-
attorney general,
is
we
moot.
were looking into it. Just we're not going to get anywhere because those folks.
And I wrote a 5-page with countless footnotes right at the beginning
Mhm.
that I put in an affidavit that we never used, of doctors from around the world explaining why masks are dangerous.
Yeah, I mean it's such a well-known fact.
Mhm.
It's absolutely absurd that it's so hard to get people to acknowledge. And I think just because of the censorship, when I went to my board of commissioners and I was talking with them, a few weeks ago before I resigned, and some, woman on the commission who's super smart, super well researched, she just said, well, there must be evidence of effectiveness and safety if they've been recommended this often, and that's just what people think. They just think it must exist, therefore it's there.
Because the lie is so brazen and
Right.
so big, and that's the
Big.
whole game. Say such a big lie that it should be so outrageous. How could these people in suits sit there and lie so brazenly? Yeah,
Right.
that's
Right.
part of it.
And there are a lot of people who are adamant about it.
Yeah.
The co-op is
Right. I know the cost.
there was
I
a
know.
thread online, and I joined the thread because somebody was criticizing Matthias Desmet a little bit for implying that totalitarianism was a grassroots thing. And I said, oh, you want to know about that? It's a moot point. Just go to the co-op and then shut up. Just that's all you have to do. If you want to know about totalitarianism and where it comes from,
Right.
go to the co-op. Nobody is telling those people that you have to attack someone without a mask. They're doing it voluntarily.
Right.
It is their nature. That's what they want to do. And even though Governor Scott and Emily and I had this out like 100 times, even though Governor Scott implied that that's what you have to do, people loved it.
Yeah,
They jumped at the chance to
so
do it.
weird. And part of the horror of it, I think, was for us to watch how boom, 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 people, got into line.
Well,
So it was a thrill. Some of us refused to wear masks anywhere, like at Lowe's. I went hundreds of people. Lowe's is huge. I was the only one there without a mask. Nobody looked sideways at me.
No.
The clerk at the end was very nice to me. Very
Most
charming.
of them, they don't want to be wearing them anyway either.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I've been putting my thumb on the pulse and talking with people everywhere. And, even the co-ops and places like that, a lot of those people going in there go, yeah, I know this is stupid, but then they capitulate, it's that whole going along.
Well, that was good.
But for lawsuits, I'm wondering, it's not just children who are still being masked. There are employers also still willy-nilly based on their own, concepts, which is basically just, voodoo at this point. Or
Right. Well, I mean, I got in trouble standing up for an employee of the Putney Co-op, and she had this mask on that had holes. It was a lacy mask. So I took that to mean she didn't want the mask on. And I said I'd stand up for her to the board. Little did I know she was one of the people who was immune compromised. She was threatened by me not having a mask. And at
Oh,
my suggestion, which I was trying to look out for her, she came up with a fib that she told everybody that she said that I had said to her, what did she say? She said that I had said, I hope you die of COVID. And
oh my God.
there was
Interesting.
nobody, there was no proof of that. There was no,
Right.
but she said it, and they kicked me out for a year. And there was nothing, there was nothing I could do to say, well, there's no way I could be reasonable with them in
Right.
any way. And she left, of course, because she wasn't, she wasn't honorable anyway, but she left the company. So
Mhm.
I think it's a big challenge, but what I wanted to put to you both, all of us being somewhat creative and nervy, and was that I think it would be fun for us. I mean, we have to do things that are fun and feed our sense of humor,
Yeah.
because taking on the burden of these people's naivete
Mhm.
is maybe beyond what we're really helping out to do in some
Right.
way, because it
I don't
says
want.
that.
Yeah.
And so what I love us to do, the three of us, because you're a performer, Jim, you're a performer, I'm a crazy kook performer too, is if we can get a little mini flash mob, a little mini flash mob song or something that we
Mhm.
can go in together, or even call each other on the phone and sing to one another. It's something that lasts a minute and a half in a grocery store or
Uh-huh.
something that it's an expose without directly confronting, that sits in people's imagination that they cannot forget. um
Yeah.
that will be
I've got
fun.
some ideas.
A
What?
jingle.
I've got some ideas because I've been in parades too for the past couple of years. I've
Yeah.
been my breathing celebrations in parades, so I've got some songs that have words that have been reworded, like every breath you take, being
Yeah.
about oxygen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like the idea of educating people and kind of bringing them back to the breath concept of, let's just start with fundamentals. I
Mhm.
feel like people are so distracted and lost that their feet aren't even on the ground anymore. They don't know
Mhm.
reality from fantasy, or natural law or basic principles.
And they don't want to.
Right, right. So
Well, I
comedy
wonder.
or humor or
Yep.
a way to.
Yeah. I wonder what if we could bring in some of the elements about this outrageous broad fibbing, lying that's happening from the authorities. If we could
Oh, like
bring it
nose,
in,
like
a
Pinocchio.
nose growing, and maybe having some little skit where somebody has just become the governor and somebody's, or something like that, and somebody's the advisor, and the song is, when you lie, lie real big, lie real big, lie real
Yeah,
big, right?
yeah.
So
Get these.
I would love to do that with you three, and I too, and I would, certainly travel just for the fun of doing those. And then if we have them filmed and they go viral, that works.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the bubbles are very visual. I mean, just throwing ideas out there, but
Mhm.
it is so visual. I've been wanting to go around like a mime because I have the mime makeup. I took,
Yep.
the mime thing and just do it where you show, you blow in the bubbles and then try with the mask on and you just
Yep.
can't,
Okay,
and
well,
get
there's
people
two,
only to
sorry,
take,
there's
and
two.
get,
Yes, we should do that, but there's two sides to that, because of course, if you can smell a fart through underwear, then then this is what a 5-year-old says, then the virus can pass through. So while you cannot blow a bubble, uh we can, I don't know what we can do about that. Say, oh my God, did you pass gas? Yes, I just smelled it, but you had your mask, whatever. We could have really, that sounds like just a thrill to do. And we could, Jim, you could make sure we're all directed up and tight on our readiness.
One of the things that even highly intelligent people prove their temporary stupidity is that officially, I mean, at this moment now, I'm just telling you things that the CDC has stated, that the shots do not, well, first of all, they give you this shot even if you are in the midst of a COVID attack. So therefore, it's not a vaccine. It can't be a vaccine if you're getting it while you have the condition and or after you have the condition. So they admit, they know, everybody knows now that they give you the shot while you have it and after you have it. Okay, number two, it doesn't prevent it. That's acknowledged by the CDC, and it doesn't prevent you from spreading it. So why would you get it? And these intelligent people just go and get the shot for their own protection and to protect the community, even though they know that those are the facts surrounding it. And it just
well, that's why I drew the line at the masks. It just seemed like I'm not going any further down this trail of just obviously unhealthy actions. They're just unhealthy. Every step we've taken that the authorities have taken.
Oh, and then the doctors have told me when they say, have you been vaccinated? And I said, no. They say, well, it could save your life. And then I tell them, okay, well, it can't be a vaccine because of what I just said. And it doesn't prevent the spread and it doesn't prevent you from getting it. So why would I get it? And then they say, the one thing that they're capable of saying, it could save your life. And I say, well, where do you get that?
Well, the moon could be made of cheese, Jim. I mean, that's not a lie.
That's
so
right.
We can
the
say
moon
these
could
statements.
Be made of cheese.
It's
Hi there.
Joining us. This is Brigham. Brigham, who has been a legislator. You know, Amy Hornblas and Jim Jim Hogue. Yep. It's a pleasure to see you. It's a great surprise. So,
fantastic.
So we have four now.
We go way back with my housemate Padma.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know Padma. Well, I'm a WGDR programmer. I should slide it in there that I have a children's show that I started when the pandemic lockdown started with the schools. So I do a children's show where I teach natural law and biology and things. It's every Saturday on WGDR. People can find those children's shows and all the other work, my mask survey, other interviews I've done. And I'm also doing an adult show at WMRW called the 4-H Show, where we've been doing a deep dive into constitutional issues, such as that Proposition 5, what was it, Amendment 22.
Yes.
And now I just did one on Friday, a deep dive into this report that came out about DCF. It's called Broken Promises, Broken Systems. It's a really good report about DCF, breaking our constitutional rights to due process and finding child abuse where there is none, where, using information instead of evidence, changing all the legal language. But so all those shows can be found at my website. It's vtmasksurvey.com. Okay. So VT like Vermont, mask survey, because that's the study I conducted, .com. And I have the children's shows and everything else there. So I do radio programming too. So thanks for bringing up.
And you've invited me on to poison everyone at Goddard College.
No. Well, it's not a Goddard radio station anymore.
No, it's not.
It's a community.
It's on their premises.
Right.
And they're all for masks and they're all for vaccines and they're all for shutting you up if you tell the truth.
I know. That's why I used to be on the community advisory board there when they kicked off folks like Jim. And that's why I got my programmer license, because I could see free speech, which is what I was there arguing for, was free speech. Just the window just kept closing. And I thought, well, if I'm going to have a chance to say anything before it's damn shut, I better slide in there. And I think with the children's show, it's all truth. It's all truth. We have to breathe.
Yep.
I mean,
that's so beautiful. That's so important. And can I ask you to circle back and to get more specific about your program about the DCF and its, you sort of pointed out some points. Can you get into it deeper, please, for us all?
Say what it is.
Yeah, so last Friday,
Mhm. Go ahead.
last Friday on my radio show, I co-host with Jerry Procaccini at WMRW, is a radio station, a community radio station in Warren, Vermont. And we co-host the show together. She invited me to join her a few months ago. And last Friday, I had Larry Christ on the show. And he just came out with a report, him and the organization that he works for, where they offered legal services, free legal services to the first however many people came through the door who were appealing their substantiations with DCF. So they're appealing their findings that they had been found substantiated of child abuse. And they found that when they offered free legal services, every one of those cases was overturned. And a lot of them, and so they were able to see some patterns after they've been doing 32 cases now of seeing where the system, where it's broken.
And what's BCF?
DCF,
Mhm.
Department of Health.
DCF, Department of Children and Families.
Mhm.
Right. So in the old days, they would just make decisions on substantiation behind closed doors because it was really just an internal workings thing.
Mhm.
It was just supposed to red flag people if there were maybe suspicions of child abuse. But now over time, employers can see that information, and more of these decisions are being made more seriously and affecting people's lives, taking children for
Mhm.
unbelievable amounts of time before they can finally resolve these cases. And what they're finding is in all of the cases they took on, they were wrong. DCF was wrong.
So
So
I need to connect you with Morningstar, Morningstar, Jim, and she's been asking me to help her co-host a weekly call with many, many people who have cases like these and eviction notice cases, to try to help them get more educated how to fight them themselves. But I hope I can connect you two together, because I know up in Burlington she is aware of quite a number of these types of problems up there.
yeah, it's horrifying. Our constitutional rights. It was interesting what the ACLU told us a few weeks ago. We were doing a deep dive into that amendment about reproductive autonomy. And so we had the ACLU come on to explain these legalese terms, and it was really interesting what he explained, which I had never realized this, that we really don't have total constitutional rights. The state can always override our constitutional rights with a compelling state interest.
Okay,
Always,
now,
in all cases.
hold on.
And
I'm sure that's what he wants you to believe, Amy. I'm sure that's what he wants you to believe, because it comes from the mouth of a lawyer that it kind of pretends to be for the people and is still tied into the state a good time. But I just want to insinuate, I just insist that it's the people getting aware and standing up for the rights that
Right.
the Constitution, remember, it does not confer the rights. It names the rights that were coming from God. So they are,
Yeah,
it's the vehicle of naming what was already there. And I think it's very easy to get, and I've had experience with lawyers where they kind of want to sidetrack your autonomy, your authorization of your freedom, and sort of remind you that the lawyers are really in control. And yes, that certain proposition did say that the state has overriding compelling interests, and it's really so I don't know, it's so amazing that here in Putney, 1,100 people to 125 people voted for it, even though it had the word.
I don't believe that, because it was so awfully worded and confusing. Most people had red flags going off. I mean, Jerry and I, as old school feminists, back in the day, we had red flags going on. But what I thought was interesting how the lawyer explained it was, and I think it's wrong that the state should have any compelling reasons. His example was free speech. He said you have the right to free speech unless you're threatening someone and the state has decided to put limits on that you can burn a flag, but you can't do, we have these like arbitrary sort of, and to me, I mean, I agree with you in spirit. I feel like that's wrong. to me, I'm trying to find a place of natural law. I've been really studying natural law. How could we live without this broken system? You know, these rules, these regulations, they're not written for us. They're not written by us. They're being unfairly applied. They're proving their illegitimacy through this entire COVID thing for sure. But we have to have the autonomy. I mean, we have to also be responsible. And so when it comes to things like free speech, should we ever limit someone's speech? I don't believe so. I don't believe you can actually threaten someone, right? Or make them feel bad, or, you know, all this language stuff now people are getting into, that you can't use certain words and you can't, you know, I'm so fragile, I'm so offended, no, we should be strong enough inside of ourselves that it shouldn't matter what other people say. We can't control them anyway. Let them say it, you know, and if we're strong enough and we can defend ourselves, we shouldn't even feel threatened, you know.
In my book review of the psychology of totalitarianism, I quoted from from founding fathers up through the present, Du Bois and Franklin, that freedom has to be number one.
Yes.
Because if freedom isn't number one, then the other things don't really mean anything. And I can't explain that all right now, but
that was a
what I'm
nice
getting
review. That was a nice
is that-
review. Yeah.
thank you. But that's terribly important that people don't put freedom down at the bottom of the list. Where at Goddard and GDR, it's off the list.
I know.
You know, it's a really bad thing.
Unfortunately.
It's bad
It's
in their mind that you might have the freedom to say something that they don't want to hear, and they will kick you off the air for that. That's how fascistic the great open left can become, just like that.
Have you left your
So bring
mind?
them. What?
Have you left your mind?
How have I left it? Well, I don't know.
I've been reading Thomas Paine's Common Sense, and I thought it was this picture you have there. I was like, yes, I recognize him. And I was just reading that passage. I love it, where he talks about how without a crown, you know, without royalty, if we're a democracy and we don't have royalty, he recommended taking a crown symbolically and placing it on the law books, as now the law is our crown. We no longer have royalty. We have these rules that we've decided to agree to, da, da, da. But then he says, when those rules, when those laws are no longer protecting your freedom, but actually, as he could probably foresee someday, them devolving to the bureaucracy it's in now, that we should take that crown, break it up, and distribute it amongst the people, because that's who owns it really at the core. And I feel like we're at that time. It's time to break up the crown. Well, I mean, we're not going to fix it through other law, making new laws to fix the old laws. I mean, we're never going to untangle this.
Amy, I hope to catch up with you outside of our show here, because as Jim and especially Brigham know, I'm developing with their help a enterprise approach, because I don't believe a political approach will ever open any doors for us. So I'd love to share that with you, because I think it has it will be fun to work on it with you. Actually.
I miss working with you. We should reconnect for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, essentially, what I've come to the conclusion is that we can't get anywhere we want to go through a political doorway. And one of what we're all yearning for, no matter what side, is the peace that economic prosperity and stability brings. Because by making everything economically unstable, they're really generating so much of that mindset that allows people, foments the mind, what is it called, the mass formation that allows that to happen, because people have to have a sense of belonging. So they belong to this idiotic mandates, but the sense of belonging is more important. So when we create enterprise and enterprise structure that people can increase their economic stability in a non-ideological way, addressing some of the biggest concerns, which are, of course, we all share: clean water, clean air, good food. Then we can then I think we can do so much politically that we cannot do through any elective means whatsoever. But I do want to go back and ask you, you seem to intimate that the vote, you did not trust the vote outcome. Was that what you were saying? Did I see that, or what was your?
Oh, am I a election denier? I heard this all over GDR today. I'm like, whoa, now they've got terminology. I heard it on
You know,
BPR.
it's
It's
okay when
lynching.
the Democrats didn't deny,
Yeah.
but it's not okay if a Republican
And I'm
denies,
like,
and they don't even see it.
I know, and it's this new bad word, bad phrase. I don't want to be labeled with that. It's just fun. It's hilarious. No, absolutely. I haven't believed elections since Nader. I mean, Nader was the last election I voted on that I believed in, that I thought had some hope. And then we saw what happened there, and then I just really I've been questioning elections ever since then. I especially don't trust that amendment. I mean, the Equal Rights Amendment didn't even pass in Vermont because people were so suspicious of it. I mean, Vermonters typically don't just vote for new laws that they don't understand. They're very they like to read, they like to see what it's written there, and if it doesn't make sense to me, and
Right, then you don't vote for it.
that one about reproductive autonomy, when we teased apart those phrases made.
Oh, I left that blank because I didn't understand what they were talking about.
Right.
Yeah, it was very badly written.
Well, specifically written for a specific reason.
Right,
Oh,
right.
specific audience.
Well, and
Yeah.
reproductive autonomy for individuals. It doesn't state age limits.
That's
It
right.
doesn't mention gender or sex. There's
Talk
so
about talk about giving the DCF egregious powers to accuse parents of being abusive for not allowing the gender fluidity in their home. I mean, it seems to me it could be a really dark back door to a lot of other very dark activity that I believe is going on in Vermont. And it's worthy of our shining a light. And I'm so happy that you're doing it. Getting this topic, it is okay to talk about. It is important for us to look at. And back to the voting, this is where I think Vermont is so suspicious. And it is in these buying of these Dominion tabulating machines. And their lame excuse that there are no ports in it. Well, I can go buy something with my card by just tapping it.
Sure.
So somebody can go to these tabulators, just tap it with the same sort of chip and have some votes counted more, the same number of votes come through, but they're weighted more or anything like that. Plus, my own guy here, my clerk, said that they mail the memory chips. They mail the memory chips up to the Secretary of State's in the mail. There's nothing secure about it. So
no.
yeah,
They look like magician's black boxes. If you've ever seen one, there's doors that open on all sides and it spins. I really feel like I'm in a magic show. It's weird. And then the little thing just tickers out at the end. And I ran for select board last winter, actually, in Cabot. And so I showed up right at the end of the tally to see what the little ticker tape said. And my town clerk told me that it's not official. And I was like, well, what's going to be more official than this? That's all you get is this ticker tape. So if the ticker tape's not official, where do the official results come from? It's all just very strange to me.
My introduction to the politics years ago, and I know Jim's heard this before, Chris Erickson, who's, she's quite a theatrical character. She's the marijuana candidate. She's been running all the time. Sometimes she has some very good points, such as, our tax dollars have gone into the creation of these vaccines. Why aren't we getting the benefits from the sales and all that? She's got some good points, but she's, a theatrical person. At any rate, in the beginning, in 2008, she ran as the marijuana candidate, which back then that wasn't legal, and she garnered over 6,000 votes. So she had the unofficial, she showed me on the website the 6,000 votes that were on the unofficial count. And then she showed me the official count where they'd halved it to 3,000.
Wow.
And they didn't give her an explanation. She didn't have the wherewithal to sue them. But that was my introduction to the kind of game playing they're willing to do. And I'm certain there's a number of ways that they can rig the vote. So many ways they can rig the vote.
Mhm.
This is a particularly dangerous
You,
constitutional change, though.
you guys know
Yes,
that I wrote the
it
bill
is.
prohibiting electronic voting in Vermont.
Mhm.
It's now a statute,
Yes.
but with the
Oh,
other tricks they can play, it's not like I won a huge victory there, but it was something.
that is
Because the
something.
tabulators can be, and we don't ever get to go in and look in or examine the makings of the machines because Dominion will
Well,
say,
we could. We have been invited to do that, and the very people who spoke up and said they would do it chickened out. So
Oh.
I did my part. I mean, I'm not capable of even using a calculator properly, so there's no way I could do that.
what do you think, Brigham?
I think that we have to not give up, and I think that we have to touch base with as many people as we can constantly.
Mm-hmm,
Right on.
There's nothing else we can do.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and community and connections have
Yes,
been a big,
community.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's something about meeting in person, just
Mhm.
getting together in person. Yeah.
I'm sure you both are finding out that there are really many more groups than I would have ever guessed who are meeting as free thinkers or as people who are outside the system, whether they vote or not. There's a lot of the people in Vermont doing that, and so that's encouraging to me.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah. Have you heard of the Freedom Cells?
mm-hmm.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah. I hear that they're doing, they're quite successful little groups off the radar.
Great.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We should be connecting. I mean, I should be finding out a little bit more about them because I'm a decentralist from way back.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't have it here.
Yeah.
Your credentials, your decentralist credentials.
Well, I had a theory many years ago. I expounded this theory to Vermont through Vermont Independent that the more they try to centralize, like during the Obama administration, it was everybody was all for it. You centralize agriculture, you centralize the constabulary, you centralize everything as much as you can. And I said, the more they do that, the more those of us who want to decentralize gain traction. So that is a kind of a fluctuating thing. And look at what just happened in China. Wow.
Yes.
And the lies that the US establishment is now telling about it.
Mhm.
Oh, God, it's so exciting. You can just watch it. You can hear the people in China explaining it, saying they just exploded because it was too much.
Right.
And the American press and, people like from Scott all the way up through, Fauci and the whole thing, they're lying about it.
Really, I haven't seen
Because
the reaction.
you cannot support the people.
Oh my gosh.
That's the narrative.
What?
It doesn't fit the narrative.
Well, yeah, no.
Supporting the people
Uh-huh.
doesn't support the narrative. So you cannot do it. And just look at what's happening in China. It's so exciting.
It is.
It is.
And where one person is not free, none of us are free. I mean, I'm really starting, as far as the one
That's
world,
from the Bible.
it really is, that's what it's about, is that we are all, yeah.
Mhm.
I met with somebody today that I want to share on this show, and to you in particular. I met with somebody that I had gotten a hold of through this Red Pill University and the Red Pill Expo, which is David Griffin and his work.
Mhm.
And of course, he started with the World Without Cancer, then he went into the 9/11, and now he's doing a lot of networking work. And one of the people I approached there was working on a method to have gold as backing a debit card system. Anyway, that led me to have a meeting with somebody who has a company named Lode, Lode, because we all know this central digital system is coming along where they want to make cash obsolete, and then they want to be able to do like China to limit, and I'm saying this for anybody who sees this as well, if they're not aware, they want to be able to limit our activities because they have a central bank digital currency, so they can say, oh, you've spoken out against something, or you didn't wear a mask, we cut you off at, you can't go into the store, your debit card doesn't work, or you can't go for, this is, knowing what they're up to is important so that we can do the workaround. So this company named LODE, Load, and they've developed a means, and it's proofed out, it's operating, it's backed by Visa, that they have a digital asset that can be used with Bitcoins, it can be used with fiats, it can be used to buy gold backing, and it can have a debit card interface. So you can back it in either gold or silver, or you can interface with, I think he said 12 different currencies. And so I'm talking to him about it for this UGROW plan. But I think it's important because I just went into my bank, which is Community Bank, and I'm friends with the manager. And he said today, he told me, and we have our little, tete-a-tete about what's going on. And he said that the Trump administration wanted to know when major cash transactions took place that were like $40,000 something, they wanted the information. But now what Biden has wanted to know is they want the information every time somebody spends $200 from their account. And, if that isn't illegal search and seizure, I don't know what is. But I didn't know that they were making available that information from my account. And what the entire plan is to eliminate not only the cash, ability and the privacy that is, but also to bring in this central bank digital currency, which will make many banks obsolete. So I was talking to him about his bank looking at Load as a means of staying in business in a way. So I just wanted to share that here.
Yeah, my last few kids shows, my radio shows have been about gold and money. I'm trying to just break into that topic with youth. How do we start just having them understand the concept of it, because it is shifting. I mean, right before our eyes, it's shifting, and all this stuff is happening.
Well, when we do your kids show together, I can give my little talk about wealth comes from the sun, the soil, and clean water.
And that'd be perfect.
Then you add productivity, and you have wealth.
Yeah.
It has nothing, at that point, it has nothing to do with gold or silver or anything else.
I would encourage you to think of peace as an asset rather than the full faith and credit, to think about peace as our backing asset that the people need. So as long as we have the modalities to be in community, to be in society together in a peaceful and a prosperous way, that is the asset that we want to back our money. And remember, the money is a symbol, like the Dumbo, the guy, the little flying elephant with the little feather.
The feather?
Yeah, he could fly without it, but the feather was the symbol that made him believe. So differentiating between the value of the goods and services and the symbol of the value is, important, all those elements to teach the kids, and the historical stuff about that being able to create our own money supply was the basis of this country, really.
You're
in a good position, Amy. You're in a good position. Teaching kids is the most important thing. Yes, yeah. Jim, I'm sorry, did you, we're all doing a square dance.
Until Alexander Hamilton put us back on the debt money system.
Yeah.
With the British control, but that's a very complicated issue, and I don't want people to jump all over me on that because we don't have time to.
Yeah, we're just about at an hour. We're just about in an hour.
Something
that all four of us agree, and it's significant that we all come from a left-leaning background, and we all agree not to go to the legislature with these ideas, because you never know who's going to stab you in the back. You never know who's going to undermine you. You got to get these things going first, and then either let the legislature come to you and say, oh, that's a good idea, blah, 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 blah.
We want to take part credit for that.
They'll take credit. But no, I think it's very, very interesting that we have taken that kind of an approach to something that is traditionally a libertarian approach, but we have graduated from the idea that, oh, let's run to the government. Let's run to the government for this and that, the other thing. And oh, my nose is running. Oh, I got to run to my.
We're maturing.
We're mature to the point where we don't want to be stabbed in the back, and we can see what the legislature did with the COVID scam when they had no excuse. I'm sorry, but I do not cut them any slack for not looking into this.
Right. And still not letting us come to the table to just compare notes.
Yeah.
You know, Zuckerman stopped at my Bubbles table at the Berry Heritage Festival, and he wouldn't try the experiment. He wouldn't even let me show it to him, but he just spouted off, you know, he did talk to me, but the first thing he said was, we saved 1 million lives with masks.
Bullshit.
Great, David. That's a statistic. That's information. Let's come to a table. I'd love to know where you got that. I followed up with him afterwards and his campaign office. No one answered me. Where did that statistic come from?
Right.
You know, and I'm like, you know, but we need to compare notes. Okay, that you got that information. I've got some information too.
Remember the big lie about all the people dying are unvaccinated?
Yeah.
Where did they get that?
Right. Or unmasked. I mean, oh, people are so sick now wearing those things.
Yeah.
I think two things I'd like to share is I was bringing a present to a lady whose birthday it was. And as I walked in the door, there's a little table, and on the table is a book that says How the Unvaccinated Are Killing Our Children, a big, thick book there for everybody to see. That's one thing. And the second thing is we have to have the mindset, it's not they and us, it is us or we. And we have to always bear that in mind. That's all I have to say.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, taking the high.
Let's close out the show and don't get off the don't hang up. Just thank you, Amy. Thank you, Megan, for showing up. Jim, you're awesome.
Good to see you.
Jim is great.
This is Truth Rising, closing out.